Yeah, I've co-founded 4 biotech companies and um, have had a long interest in biotechnology. I view sort of what we do at the university influencing the outside world in multiple ways. One is we train people, we train scientists, we do original research and publish our results and make it freely available to anybody. But we can also develop new ideas that have commercial potential, and those could be licensed by another company, or if we're so inclined, start our own companies that are spun out of the university. The University of Minnesota is a hotbed of innovation and economic activity for that reason. For our state, um, the university sometimes often will have a stake, an equity stake in the companies that are created. But I will say that um, the cures that we're talking about, many of them are being offered, for those that are FDA approved for patients, many of those are being offered to patients at a really high price with the justification that in order to develop these therapies, companies had to put a lot of money into their scientific development and especially the clinical testing of those products so that they could get FDA approval, and they're trying to recoup an investment. Um, so I'm a PhD research scientist and not really a business person. But it does seem to me like as a society, we need more than just the scientific solution. We need the regulatory solution, the business model that makes sense, and the financial model that makes sense for society. Um, we probably can't afford to treat all these diseases when the price tag for some of the therapies is in millions of dollars, um, just given the number of people that might benefit from them. And so I don't really have an answer, um, but it is well worth studying. How do we make these complex therapies available to patients and do it in a way that works for the business, for the patients, for government, and for insurers? I wish I had an answer. Scott might want to comment on this as he's deeply embedded in the gene therapy field and knows a bit more about it than I do. But
No, I would agree with you, David. There's in some cases the therapy is approved, and but then just because it's so expensive, and people just aren't signing up for it. That happened with a hemophilia product. One of the products that I was most excited about, but it was licensed off to Pfizer, and they weren't able to accrue any patients, so they dropped it after a year. So this is part of the problem that needs to be dealt with. And in some cases, um, diseases. So some of these diseases that are rare, companies are dropping them too because they can't really make enough off of it to make sense to develop it anymore. That's happening with the immunodeficiencies. So in some sense, it makes sense for, people who are at academic centers where you can develop your own therapies to, pick up the ball and just do it on your own.